Good morning. Welcome back to Reads of an Apple. I'm Stacy, and I'm here to do my May wrap-up for 2022. Meow! She's very excited. So, most of these books I have talked about in length for my weekly vlogs, except for the last couple books, because I have decided to kind of change my layout, my structure, and how I'm doing things. So I will kind of talk more about those books, but just so I can get my thoughts across. And then moving forward, we will be talking more about my books in my wrap-ups. And I'll be doing 2 wrap-ups a month to start, unless my reading really picks up to where it is more normally. But we will see what happens. If you're interested in all that, definitely check out my Changes Are Coming video, where I kind of touch base on how I'm going to be rearranging things. And that did go up yesterday. But let's get into the books that I read in May. So I made pretty stat things. So let's just get to it. So I read 16 books for a total of 5,114 pages. I averaged about 1.19 days per book. The average page count was 319.63 pages. And then I do my page breakdowns as well. So I read 3 books in the 100 range, 4 in the 200s, 6 in the 300s, 2 in the 400s, and 1 in the 500s. Then 7 of the books I picked up specifically for clubs, readathons, or read-alongs. 6 of the books had diversity of some kind. I read 6 new authors, and I reread 1 book. 6 of the book I owned in paperback, and I added 6 books to my wish list. I read 5 books in paperback, 10 books in ebook format, and then 1 I simultaneously read in audio and paperback. And so we'll touch on that one when we get to that one. Then, for publications, I read 8 books that were traditionally published and 8 that were indie published. So a dead even split this month. And then for decades published, I read 1 from the 2000s, 7 from the 2010s, and 8 from the 2020s. A lot of new books. And then ratings. So my average rating for the month was 4.47 stars. I read 8 books that were 5 stars, 2 that were 4.5, 4 4-star books, 1 3.5, and 1 3-star book. And then my last little stats breakdown is genres. I read 8 contemporaries, 4 fantasies, and 4 historical romances. And then I also break down my contemporary spreads even farther. So 2 of them were dark romance, 4 of them were rom-coms, 1 of them was small town, and 1 of them was just a normal contemporary romance. It didn't really fit into any of my sub genres. So that is it for stats. So let us get into what I actually read. So the first book I read, I knew I needed to get it done because I am reading this as part of the SJ ReadAlong, and the live show for it was during or just after the historical romance readathon. So I needed to get it read before the readathons at the beginning of the month started, and that was Heir by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3rd book in her Throne of Glass series. The SJ ReadAlong, if you have not heard of it, is being organized by Jen from the Book Refuge, and we are reading Sarah J. Maas's backlist in publication order. And before starting this read along, I had not read Sarah J. Maas, so this has been fun, and I'm definitely already understanding the hype behind her books. And I gave this one 5 stars. Now, I was supposed to read the prequel novella that went this month, and apparently I forgot to read it, so I need to read that when I read the one for this month, but that's beside the fact. So then after that was the Mafia Romance Readathon. You can see my vlog up above, but the first book I read for that was Savage Hearts by J.T. Geissinger. I gave this book 5 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Queens and Monsters series. I don't know why I put it off so long before picking it up. I just haven't been in much of a mood for dark romance lately. But 5 stars. I loved it. Really good. Then I picked up A Kiss of Venom by Beena. And this is the first book in her Black Widows series, and I give this book 3.5 stars. Didn't quite hit the mark for me, but definitely check out my vlog to see more reasons why. And then the day after the Mafia Romance Readathon ended, started the Historical Romance Readathon. So you can check out my vlog for that as well. But I got slumpy during that week. So I only read 2 books. The first was Karen Hawkins, How to Abduct a Highland Lord. This is the first book in her McLean Curse series. I loved it. It's got a gorgeous step back. I give this 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It just didn't, there was just a couple little things where I was just like, oh, if this, it just couldn't quite push it over the edge to me. But it was definitely more than a 4, so I gave it 4.5 stars. And then, on the last couple days of the readathon, because I did not pick up anything else after that, I read the new release, Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron. This is by Julia Quinn and her sister, Violet Charles. If you did not know, her sister, her father, and her sister's husband tragically passed away last year from being hit by a drunk driver. So this came out, this has been pushed back a couple of times. I'm not sure if it had to do with that or whatever publication shortages are happening, but there is a very sweet letter, author's note in the back, just kind of talking about her experience of that and just basically telling her sister she loves her, and it was very sweet, very heart touching. If you have not read this, this is a graphic novel and it is illustrated by her sister, and she also mentions that her sister did most of the writing for it as well. But obviously, if you have not heard of this book before, in Julia Quinn's several of her novels, her characters read Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron, and it has really crazy things that happen in it. So this is the book within the books, kind of a thing. And so it was really fun. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. And some of the things I didn't remember until I read them, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that's a thing. Like, her mother gets killed by pigeons. So it's just as crazy and just as zany as it's talked about being in Julia's novels. And I had a lot of fun reading it, and it was a good get me kind of back into the reading mood book, because it's a graphic novel. It was something quick and easy and fun, and yeah, so I gave this 4 stars. Okay, after that, what I had planned to read during the Historical Romance Readathon but did not get to was the Rake Appreciation Society book for the month, and that is The Marquess Makes His Move by Diana Quincy. This is the 3rd book in her Clandestine Affairs series, and I gave this book 3 stars. And I definitely on the side of the fence of this book, just didn't really do much for me. I enjoyed, like, her writing style was fine, and I liked seeing the representation of both not only Middle Eastern people, Arab people in historical romance, but there also was working class representation. But it it just didn't do it for me. There were way, way, way too many misunderstandings, lie by omission, and flat out lies. And once it gets to a point where they say, okay, no more secrets, we're going to tell each other everything, more lies happen, or more hidden things occur. And just like, I thought you said you promised you weren't going to have any more secrets. But yeah, and check out my weekly vlog for my rantings about that. But it was still 3 stars because it's not my jam. Then after that, I needed to, because the day after the Rake Appreciation Society live show was the Hidden Legacy read-along live show. Everything happened at once this month. And so that was hosted by, and I should mention, Rake Appreciation Society is hosted by Jen from the Book Refuge and Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. The Hidden Legacy Readathon is hosted by, so it started out as the Kate Daniels read-along, which I read all through that series, and then the spin-off series, Aurelia Rider, and now we have switched to Hidden Legacy. I'm pretty sure the plan is to get through all of Ilona Andrews' backlist, but so far we've just done now these 3 series. So it is Heather from Hia Booktubes, Steph from Novelty Corner, and Megan from Meowth Vader. And now that we're doing Hidden Legacy, we've added Izzy from Happy for Now. So let's talk about the 2 books we read for this month. This is the start of the read-along. So we started with book 1, Burn For Me. This is my lone reread for the month. 5 stars. Loved it, loved it, loved it. It's been a couple years since I first read this, and it was even better than I remembered it being. Man, Ilona Andrews, the way that they write, the way that they world build, the way that they create magic systems, it's just, there's something magical about it, the way that they do it. And I'm sure it's a lot harder than they make it seem, but the way that things grow and you learn and the world evolves and you learn more in this series is just so easy to pick up and easy to understand. It feels very simple, the way that things expand. And I know it's probably not, but 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And then the other book for the month, I should mention, there are also 2 Rogan POVs on their website. Oh man. And it's fun. It's so fun to see Rogan's. One of them is when Rogan kidnaps Nevada in the beginning of the book. And so we get his POV of him kidnapping her. And that is their meet cute. And man, it's fire. It's fire. And then the other book that we had to read for the month was book 2 in Hidden Legacy, White Hot. 5 stars. Why did I not continue this story before? The series before? I don't understand why I did not. I gave Burn For Me 5 stars previously, but I did not continue the series, and I don't know why. And I feel like my camera is slowly moving and I don't know what's happening, so hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I don't know what was happening, but things were moving. But anyway, White Hot, 5 stars. I cannot wait to continue the series. I cannot wait to see how Nevada and Matt Rogan's trilogy works out. If you have not read this series before, there is the 6th book comes out in August this year, and it is about a family, Nevada Baylor, the Baylor family, but it is set up in trilogy. So the first 3 books are Nevada and Matt Rogan's books, and then I know the second 3 books are going to be Catalina's books. And then I don't know what the plan is after that, but it's 2 trilogies and then there's a novella book. But I'm super excited to finally continue the series coming in June. Then, let's see. After that, I had some time to kind of reread before my next read-along book and book club books. So I decided to work on trying to finish my first bingo board for Love Has Sprung, and I needed to fill the last kind of few remaining prompts. So I picked up Fool's Gold by Jenny Bunting. This is the first book in her Finch family series, and I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. It's fake dating, small town, childhood-ish friends, and then they've known each other because they've been in the same small town basically all their lives. She tutored him in high school, and it's the way that the fake dating evolves into like real dating it felt so natural, because they were like, we both, obviously there's attraction here and we both like each other, but we're not gonna just like suddenly say like we're really dating, and we're just not gonna, but we're also not gonna like suddenly break up. So they were just like, if people ask, just don't say anything, just smile and let it be, and we'll just kind of evolve our relationship very naturally and organically. And oh man, it had some good humor. I cannot wait to continue the series. I love this book so much. I joined Jenny Bunting's newsletter, and when you joined her newsletter, she has bonus scenes. So there is a little bonus scene on her website for this book that is, we kind of hear of an almost kiss that happens when they're in high school, when she's done tutoring him and he passes his math class. And it's that scene where they almost kiss, and like him passing the math class kind of a thing. And it was really fun. It was really fun. And then I picked up Wife by Wednesday by Catherine Bybee. This is the first book in her Weekday Brides series. I picked this up for the fake dating prompt, and I gave this book 4 stars. It was a little of a shorter book, and it is a matchmaker and a modern day duke, and he needs a wife to secure his inheritance. So he goes to a matchmaking service to have a wife for a certain amount of time. None of the women who are in the service she presents him with intrigue him, and so he actually proposes for Sam, the lady who owns the matchmaking service, to be his bride. Super cute, super fun. 4 stars. And then I picked up All Geek to Me by Allie York. 5 stars. Now, when we get to the end of the books on this list, I have only read 3 books in this series. I have now finished the series. And I'm filming this on June 4th. I have read books about geeky people before, nerdy people, fandom people, and I have enjoyed them. But there's always kind of been like, I felt like you could push it a little bit more. I feel like Juliet crosses Wolf Gone Wild. Evie is very geeky, nerdy, into fandom things, and it felt real and natural. And that's really the one that sticks out in my brain as it being really well done. And here, so the first 4 books in the series are set around 4 friends from, I want to say, elementary school. They are all women, and they own the only women-owned comic book store outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. And the series revolves around those 4 girls finding their loves. And this one was so fun. This is the owner, Nora Lee, of Words for Nerds is the name of the comic store. And it is her romance with a single father cop who shows up to investigate a pet store that's next door gets broken into. So he shows up, and he's one of the officers there to work on the situation. And they meet. She is very clumsy, and she's constantly running into things, knocking things over, and all of her friends just constantly make fun of her for it. And I just she meets him, she's like, he's so hot, and then she opens the door into his face so hard he has like a bruise on his face for a couple days. I loved it. I love this book. And then so 5 stars. And then because I could not get over it and I still had time to free read, I picked up book 2 in the series, which is Talk Nerdy to Me. I gave this one 4.5 stars because there was a situation with the third act conflict that I wasn't really quite happy how it went down, but I still binge read this book. Another thing I wanted to mention about the series is, while they all are generically nerds and geeky and dorks and whatever connotations you want to use, although there is difference, technically geeks are more on the techie side of things, but we're all one big happy family. They all have their own niche or their own favorite thing. So for All Geek to Me, she was very into cosplay and daily cosplay. Like every day she kind of dressed up as a new character, and she was very into Marvel as well and the movies, and she was more of how I see myself as a generic nerd, where I enjoy all aspects of nerd culture, but I don't have a specific niche, so to speak. But she definitely enjoys the daily cosplay aspects. And then, so for Talk Nerdy to Me, it is Ray, and she is very heavy into video games. She is one of the top video games and Glitch, which is Twitch, video game streamers, and her romance is with her rival streamer turned co-streamer turned friend turned more, and his name is August. And this series is so, I love it. It is one of my new favorite series for sure. But then I needed to get back to book club books. So for the Smart Women Read Romance exclusive Patreon review for the month, the prompt was for a non-aristocratic male character, and what won the poll of suggestions was Rules for a Proper Governess by Jennifer Ashley. This is book 7 in her Mackenzies and McBride series, and I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't quite 5 stars for me because I felt like the stakes suddenly got deadly at the end, and it didn't feel like it should have been quite that extreme. I didn't quite understand why the stakes suddenly got that high for what the situation was, but I still really enjoyed it. Now I have read book 1 and book 7 in that series. It is a series I definitely have been meaning to read more of, but haven't yet, so this is a good reminder to kind of pop it up my historical TBR list. And then was the second book for the SJM read-along for the month of May, and it was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, book 1 in A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is the one book I dual read. I read the paper book while I listened to the graphic audiobook, which was really good. That is, if you have not heard of graphic audio, I got mine through Hoopla because there was a wait list on my Libby app, which is through your library, but on Hoopla there was not a wait list, so I got mine through Hoopla. And it's basically a cinematic audiobook. Every character has a different voice actor. There's sound effects. Everybody has monsters have different voices. It's so immersive. It was so much fun reading it. However, the experience of listening to the audiobook and reading along, I would give 4 stars. I would give both of them 5 stars, but combined, I would make it 4 stars. And here is the biggest thing. Why I don't necessarily suggest doing this if you're kind of ish reading along, then you might be able to handle it. But so what's good about some things, what I didn't mind at all about the disconnect between the two was that there were times when the story, written word will say he growled out an answer, blah. And in the audiobook, it'll be him actually growling the answer, so it won't have the descriptive text. But there were a few times where a paragraph would be skipped, and it would be Feyre reminiscing on something that recently happened, or, oh, okay, connecting dots, which as a reader, we probably already would have connected, but it was just like very plainly laying it out for us to connect the dots kind of a thing. So there were quite a few times where I'd be like, it'd skip either half a paragraph or a full paragraph, and I'd pause it and I'd go back and read, and I'd be like, okay, that wasn't 100% necessary, and wasn't like nothing was being cut out of the book by skipping that, but it was not descriptive text. It was usually things happening in Feyre's mind of her connecting dots or reminiscing on something that might have just happened. But because I was reading along closely while listening, there were quite a few times where I would have to pause and be like, wait, where are we? And try to re-find my place, because either a sentence was skipped, the rest of a paragraph was skipped, or 1 or 2 paragraphs were skipped. There was once that it was 2 paragraphs, and I was like, where are we? We're on a whole nother page, and had to like flip the page, and I was like, where are we? But definitely both are good by themselves, but I just want to throw that out there, that I enjoyed the reading experience, but there was a couple times where you just maybe not read them as closely as I was reading in the paperback form. But just throwing that out there. And then to finish off the month, I had a little bit of time left. So I picked up kind of just random books for fun. And I've decided to go back to reading Molly O'Hare. I've been slowly kind of making my way through her backlist, and I picked up Stumbling Into Him. This is, I think, her second published book, but this is the first book in her Stumbling Through Life series, and I gave this book 4 stars. It was super fun. We have heard about these characters in some of her other books, in her later books, because the heroine is a klutzy librarian who has a very personable corgi named Lord Waffles, and he is a character all on himself, and she gets hit in the face by a frisbee from a local vet, and it is their romance, and it's super sweet, super funny. I mean, she's very klutzy. You can definitely tell this is one of her earlier books, though, so I only gave it 4 stars because it didn't quite have the magic of some of the other books I've read from her, but I am enjoying her rom-coms for sure. And then the last book I read for the month is book 3 in Words for Nerds, I Touch My Shelf by Allie York. I gave this book 5 stars. Now this one we kind of got the teasers of from book 1, because this is so there's 2 girls left who work and own who I guess work for Words for Nerds, and they are twins, but they are like not identical twins. So this is the taller, very skinny twin, and her name is Tuesday. She has been in love with Ray from book 2, her older brother, since she was like 10 years old. Crushed on him, fallen in love with him. We find out they did have a kiss when she was 18-ish, and he had just graduated from college, and they were all hanging out, and she went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and he was like leaning in the hallway and kissed her, and that was it. And that kind of reignited everything for her, but she's always had a crush on him, always kind of been, and it has turned into her being in love with him because they have been around each other for so long. There's also, and he's the manager of the bookstore that is across the street, and she is a secret fantasy author, and her like nerddom is fantasy books. She's obsessed with Lord of the Rings. She has like, oh my Gandalf is one of her sayings, and oh sweet little hobbit babies and things like that, and it's so much fun because all of them are nerdy in a different way. 5 stars. I mean, the dual pining in this was so much fun. It was so good. And I was you kind of knew what was going to happen, but with her being his secret author, and that went on a little bit longer than I wanted, but I couldn't not give this book 5 stars because it was just everything I needed to kind of, because I was kind of going in and out of slumpiness for the past couple months, and May has definitely been a little bit better, but I did get slumpier in the beginning of the month. And man, this series is really what I needed. I feel like I have officially kicked that slump and I am in full read mode because this series is just doing it for me. So 5 stars for I Touch My Shelf. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this series. As you will see in my June wrap-ups, I have now finished this series. Oh, it was really good. It was really, really good. But yeah, so those are the 16 books I read in the month of May. A lot of really good books. A lot of really good books. I cannot wait to kind of I can't wait to pick up what's going on in June. And I'm officially going to be doing TBRs now. So check out my June TBR if you want to know what I will be reading this month. And I think that is all I have for you. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you had any favorites for the month of May, if you've read any of these, if you're interested in any of these. Let me know down below, and I will see you all very soon.